Hello, hello, everyone. Coming on live late tonight. So, if you guys are hopping in, I have a little poll going. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, it should show across the screen. Or if you are hopping in on TikTok, it'll be when you log in. Hello, happy Friday night to you too. Doesn't feel like a Friday night to me. I don't know what it feels like, but it doesn't feel like Friday. So again, where there's a poll going, so if you're on Facebook or YouTube, you can just pop in the comment what you would like to talk about. It should show across the screen. And if you're popping it on YouTube or on TikTok, it should pop up when you log into the live. Hello, hello, everyone. You've given me such insight, and I appreciate you sharing. Oh, thank you. That means a lot. It's nice to know that what I'm doing is making a difference. Because sometimes you just forget. It feels like you're just talking to your phone sometimes, so you forget that people actually like watch what you say. So I appreciate it. So, guys, well, we'll get started here in a couple minutes. But while we're waiting, I just want to remind everybody that today is the last day for the founding member offer for Trey's Tribe, which is a coaching community. So, if you guys haven't heard the announcement, essentially what I've done is I've launched this online coaching community in a way to curtail what I'm doing to more the implementation side of things. So instead of it being more information driven, it's more healing based driven. And so it's kind of outside of social media. So that way we're in control of what's going on. You can come on there and get stuff like we're going to talk about just healing strategies and how you correct your thinking and build self confidence and just kind of shift your focus and all of that. So everything is going to be implementation focused. So right now I'm doing a founding member offer for people that are coming in at the ground floor because I'm still building it as we go. It's only 25 bucks a month to be a part of it, and all the founding members are going to work with me the first like month or two to kind of give me direct feedback and all of that on what they want to see and everything. And today's the last day for that offer. Founding members stay at 25 a month for as long as you're part of the group. And okay, so that's a good question. I got a question: is it just American or it's Canadian? So it is going to be open for like globally. I'm just figuring that part out. So if you aren't like if you're international, send me a DM that you're interested. Actually, anybody in general, like if you're interested or have any questions, just send me a DM and I'll answer them for you. But especially if you're international, please send me a DM so that way I know that you're interested. Like by tonight, because once I get off of live here, I'm gonna try to get all that set up because I have to do it. I have to like create a separate link. So yeah, I've already had like two people from Canada tell me that they're interested. So as long as you just DM me tonight, even though it ends tonight, you'll be good because it's not your fault that I haven't quite figured that out. I know it's user error. It's not that I know that's what it is. Hi Liz. Um so so yeah, so if you're international, just DM me. We'll get it figured out together. Like I said, I've got two other people that are from Canada that are kind of on hold for me. I'm gonna get that figured. Hopefully, I'm gonna get that figured out tonight. I know there's a way to do it. I'm just not super tech savvy, so I'm just getting all that figured out. So again, it's the last day for the founding members offer for the coaching community, um, and I'm really excited about it. Right now, we've been doing like daily challenges and stuff, but I've gotten a lot of people to fill out the form on what they would like to see on the in the community and what kind of content they'd like to see. So we'll be doing something like every week, like whether it's a video that's posted or it's a live that we do just with the community. So you're going to be getting something every week to implement for that week, and then just other resources and stuff too. But it's all going to be exclusive to that community. And founding members are going to have different exclusive stuff. I'm still figuring it all out, but like since founding members are starting from the ground floor, like I've even told everybody if I ever end up doing webinars down the road, like founding members will always get them and get in them for free and stuff. So, but yeah, if you're interested in being part of that or have any questions, feel free to DM me. The only place you can't DM me is if you're watching me on YouTube. And if that's the case, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok. Or I'm actually going to pop my email on here for those of y'all on YouTube. You can also email me that you're interested too. My email is pretty much the same as my username. And someone said, yes, please. I'm so trauma bonded still. It's honestly frustrating. That's honestly like why I started this whole, well, it's why I started everything that I've done, but specifically it's why I've started the coaching community, because I feel like there's enough information out there, like on, the all the terms and like this and that, but there's just not enough like how to information. Because like the questions that I get all the time, I don't get questions about like, Trey, what's love bombing, or Trey, what is a demonizing phase? Like all that's out there at this point. The questions that I get asked about are, Trey, how do I break the trauma bond? Like how do I get past the obsessive thinking? Like how do I accept this? Like how do I deal with this? Like those are the questions that I get. And that's what the whole coaching community is going to be about. Like it's about the how to's. And we'll have some what's in there. Like we'll have some information, but mostly it's going to be just about the how to move forward, but not just about how to get over the narcissistic person. Because for me, that's just like step one. It's really like past that, like how to continue to build your self confidence and value yourself and be able to set boundaries and value yourself enough to hold those boundaries. So it's a lot more than just that. So that's the whole reason why I took it. And by the way, like my fiance and my animals and stuff are home. So if you hear a bunch of background noise, just ignore it. The steps to leave page isn't working. Okay, thank you for letting me know. I will update that then because it should be. But I'm glad to know that that is not working at the moment. Okay, let's see what's going on in the poll. Okay, so as of right now, looks like managing emotions and no contact are tied. Which actually, those go hand in hand. Okay, yeah, I'll figure out why that's not working, because I want that to work, because I think that's a really good resource to have. I was married for 23 years. I left 10 months ago, but he's trying to convince our kids that I'm the narcissist. Yeah, and unfortunately, like co-parenting with a narcissistic person is never co-parenting. It's parallel parenting. Um, and the best thing that I fortunately for me, I do have kids, but they were from a previous marriage. They weren't from the narcissistic person. So fortunately for me, I don't have to deal with that side of things. But one of the biggest pieces of advice that I can get is to just stay consistent. Like just be you and be the safe place for them, and understand that yes, narcissistic people are very good at manipulating, and they are very good at turning people against people and all of that. Um, and there may be times where they fall for the manipulation, like, and that's just an unfortunate possibility. But as long as you stay consistent and you don't talk bad about their other parent, they're going to see it. You know what I mean? Like when we grow up and we get to like some sort of level of adulthood, like we look back on things and we see it with a different point of view because we're an adult now, and we're like, well, this parent was always doing this, but I never got that over here. So how are they the bad one, like they always said? So it's kind of one of those like just trusting, not trust the process, but staying true to who you are and trusting that they're going to see it. And I've heard people talk to me about that. Again, I don't have that lived experience, but um, it's just an unfortunate thing, like that is a possibility. Like it just is, and you just kind of have to be prepared for that possibility and just staying consistent. And like I said, also just being that safe place for them to come to you with questions. If you ever have questions, don't hesitate to ask me. And I will be 100% honest with you. You can share your emotions with me. You can all of that. Like, I am a safe place for you. And they're going to know. Okay, let me check on the poll. And I'm sorry if I'm not like super bubbly today. I'm honestly just like tired. It's been a long week. Okay, if you're on Facebook and YouTube, I have the poll options like underneath the screen. If you're on TikTok, it should be there when you pop into the live. I swear, some of these like stupid spam comments. Okay. All right. So just in case you're hopping in late, I'll say it one more time and then we'll get into the actual content. Today's the last day for the founding members offer from my online coaching community. It's called Trey's Tribe. The community is going to be all based on implementation strategies. So all the how-to stuff, like how to deal with the obsessive thinking, how to manage your triggers, how to manage your emotions, how to keep and go no contact and building strategies and all that. So it's removed from social media, so that way it's all like in one place and it's organized, and you don't have to wait for an algorithm to show you the videos and all that mess. Um, and founding members get the whole community for $25 a month, and that never changes. Founding members are going to work with me for a month or two, kind of help get everything structured and built, and give me direct feedback. Do you like this? Do you not? What do you like to see? And really, like I said, help me structure this. And then we'll relaunch it after 2 or 3 months. And like I said, founding members will stay the same. So if you're interested in that or have any questions, please DM me. I'm really excited about it. It's one of my, probably the project that I'm most excited about that I've done, because it's just a real sense of community. It's going to be a smaller group. So I'm excited. So if you're interested in that, please do let me know. And just like I said, just send me a DM. And sending me a DM is not a commitment. It's just letting me know you're interested, and I can answer any questions that you may have. Okay, so poll wise, it looks like managing emotions actually is winning. So let's talk about that actually. Okay, so let's talk about how we manage our emotions. So one thing I want to make very clear is if you are dealing with any kind of emotional dysregulation, like you're sad one minute and then the next minute you're mad, and then the next minute you're like happy that you're out of the relationship and you just feel like you're just kind of all over the place. Take comfort in the fact that that is actually like a very sorry, there's something in my eye, that is a very classic um, symptom or side effect, however you want to put it, of trauma. Like one of the most classic signs of it. So the fact that you're dealing with it, sorry, and the fact that you're dealing with it doesn't make it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It just means you're kind of on that natural course after dealing with traumatic situations and traumatic people. And someone just said that, and the obsessive thinking is the worst part of it for me. To me, the emotional dysregulation and the obsessive thinking, they have this like cyclical relationship to where they kind of feed into each other. Because when you can't manage your emotions, or you don't have any strategies to manage your emotions, it can oftentimes like trigger questions, like where you are replaying things over and over again. And then when you're replaying things, like you get like re-triggered about it, and then you get mad, and then you get sad, and then it creates these other questions, and it just like, it's literally like this cycle, and they work hand in hand together. And so that's kind of why talking about managing emotions really can talk about a whole lot of other things, because here's what happens in the relationship just in general. So for those of you guys that don't know, I'm getting my doctorate in occupational therapy, and one of the things that we study a lot in occupational therapy school is like neuroanatomy, and also just how trauma affects the brain. And so it's like very, very interesting, but it's also helped me apply a lot of things into here. Um, but one of the things that we've talked about, and I'm going to try to use this, like I can nerd out about this stuff like a lot, so I'm going to try to like not use like textbook terms. I'm going to try to use like normal people terms. But essentially, when you're in these relationships, you have two different brains that operate with you. There's an emotional brain, and then there's your learning brain. When you're in these relationships, you're constantly driven by your emotional brain, and your emotional brain is actually is what is responsible for your fight or flight response, because it's the one that initiates that message of like, I am in danger, something's not right. And you're constantly being held captive is pretty well, I mean, that's kind of what it feels like you're constantly being held captive by your emotional brain, because you're constantly under this unsafe stimulus, whether it be just emotionally unsafe or it's actually physically unsafe too. And we're not designed to live under the operation of our emotional brain. It's there for protection, but it's not the the things that it does to our body. That's not, it's supposed to be there for dangerous situations, not a place where we live in, if that makes sense. Because if you think about it, if you've studied or learned anything about the fight or flight response, when you are in fight or flight, a lot of just regular functioning slow down, like your digestion and just like your homeostasis type stuff. Well, when your emotional learning brain, or I'm sorry, your emotional brain is constantly in overdrive, a lot of those other things get out of whack. So that's why a lot of people that I've coached have like these weird digestive issues that they don't know where it's coming from, or they have developed these other chronic conditions. And it's because their body was just under this constant stress all the time. So what's happened with this, unfortunately, is that our brain has developed some pretty unhealthy habits. And what I mean by unhealthy is like they're just not serving you. Like they're and it's just because like that's where it's used to go. So unfortunately, that's why when you're dealing with triggers and emotions, it feels very, very intense at the beginning. And here's the reality of the situation. I actually just talked about this a little bit on the Narc and Me podcast. So I did a podcast interview with well, her name is Ashley, and she runs the Narc and Me podcast. And if you want to check that out, you just go to the link in my bio in any of the profiles and scroll down a little bit, and it has where all my podcast interviews are. But the most recent one I've done is it's about triggers, and it's on the Narc and Me. And I know she's on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, I think. Um, but we talked about how like, anytime you leave a relationship, you get triggered. You have these memories, or you find something of theirs or this or that, and you just get sad because you're not in the relationship anymore. And that's very, very normal, and that's typical. But unfortunately, after these relationships, those reactions are so intensified because the relationship was such an unsafe place that it triggers that emotional brain again. And you're up and down, and the triggers just feel really intense, and then we don't know how to manage it, and we just feel really lost and feel out of control. And the excessive thinking almost feels like addictive, like we just can't stop it. I don't know if any of y'all relate to any of this, but this is exactly what I was going through. And there's a reason for it. It's because your brain is on this autopilot of, when you think about these memories, they're unsafe memories. They're not just sad memories, they're unsafe. And so it goes into this reaction before you can even process like, oh, I'm not actually living it, I'm just remembering it. But by the time that you've processed that, all of the physiological effects have already started. So this is like a super long-winded version of what I'm trying to say, but you're it's just transference of what was going on in the relationship. And the bad thing is that bad habits don't just go away. They don't just go away, like in general. That's just a fact. Like bad habits have to be replaced with healthier habits. So um that's why I don't really, when people ask like, well, Trey, how long does it take to get over this? Like, there's really no answer to that, to be honest, because to me, it just depends on everybody's personal experience and their own resiliency factors and et cetera. But it's not about time alone. It's about time and work, and time and strategy building. Because if you aren't given the strategies, then time's not going to do much for you other than just put more distance between that part of your life and this part of your life. So one of the things that I would do with managing emotions. Now I'm going to give you guys a couple, actually. I'll give you a couple of them that I have in my course. Because in my Breaking Free from Rumination course, I literally have a whole week that's dedicated to this. Like, that's how serious of an issue this is for everybody. But I'll give you a couple that's in there. So, one of the things that I did that helped me a ton was I did this thing where I like made a deal with myself. So, what I mean by that is, it's like, let's say that I felt like some sort of like intent, like a memory got triggered during my obsessive thinking or whatnot, and I just got really angry or I just got really sad. I would give myself a time limit. Like, I would literally set a timer on my phone. Usually it was like 20 minutes. And I would just say, I'm just going to give myself permission to feel this for up to 20 minutes. And then after that, I'm going to go do something productive. And it's the act of just giving yourself permission to feel whatever you're feeling. Like, first of all, name it. So, I'm angry, or I'm sad, or I feel betrayed, or whatever it is that you're feeling, name it. Because when you name the emotion, it actually does lower the intensity of it because you're not resisting it, you're just embracing it. And then I would just sit in that feeling for however, up to 20 minutes. Most of the time, it didn't take that long for me to feel like I can get up and do whatever I was going to do. Very few times, if it was very intense, I would extend it out another 10 minutes. That only happened a couple of times. Most of the time, I didn't even need the full 20 minutes, but I would just set that timer, give myself the permission. I would eliminate as many distractions as I could. If my kids were over, I would just put, to be honest with you, I would just put something on the TV and just be like, hey, dad just needs like 15 minutes in his room by himself. But if something happens, come get me. So I would do what I could to eliminate as many distractions as possible and just allow myself to sit in it. Um, and then whatever I did after was, like I said, something productive. And it was something to physically and also mentally redirect my thought process. So I would, for me, cleaning gets me out of my head. So there's always something I can clean around my house. So I would do that, or I would go for a walk, or I would call a friend and talk about anything but that. So I would just physically and mentally redirect myself. Um, Another strategy that you can use is just setting aside a time every day where you just check in with yourself. So instead of like doing it, and it's similar to like the making a deal part, but I would make the deal when the emotion just came up, but kind of being almost preemptive about it and setting a time where you're going to just check in with yourself every day. It's kind of the same process. Just ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? And just name it. And if you feel like you need that time, then just sit down and process it for a little bit. But just setting like a random timer on your phone to where you just ask yourself, like, what emotion am I feeling in this moment? It'll Allowing yourself to actually feel them is really, really key. It's because when we try to resist them, that's the biggest mistake that most of us make, is that we're like, I don't want to feel this right now, or I don't want to deal with this right now. So we kind of push it off. And when we do that, it almost comes back even more intense, as opposed to if we just took a couple minutes to be like, you know what, I'm pissed off right now, or whatever it might be, and you just embrace it. You'll actually lower the intensity of it just by doing that. Um, Anytime that I've dealt with, or this is actually a really great strategy, if it's more like anxiety related, um, you can actually use what's called a grounding technique. And grounding has like been very well researched, like very well researched to help. It's essentially getting you back into the present moment, by using your senses. So you can either use your touch and get like an ice cube and hold it really tight in the palm of your hand, or put it behind the back of your neck. You can also use your taste by like biting into a lemon. You could use your smell by getting like some kind of essential oil or strong scent, and just smelling that. You can also just take like an inventory of everything that you can see right now and hear right now, or you can combine all five of them. Like, what's five things that I see right now? What are four sounds that I hear right now? What's one thing that I taste right now? What are two things that I can feel right now? Just using your senses to get you back grounded in the moment, and couple that with breathing, like deep breaths in and out, that actually will lower, like, your nervous system. It's been very, very well researched. That's one of the ones that I've learned in school. Um, my professor, she actually recommended, like, if we were wanting to do that with one of our patients, she recommended like just finding random objects with all different textures and like all this kind of stuff and just put them in a box. And that way you can like have them grab something and have them name all the qualities about it. Like, is it rough? Is it smooth? Is it cold? And all of that. And so you can do that instead of the ice cube too. But what that does is it just helps you kind of get out of your head and get out of this like what if world and gets you right back into the moment. Um, and it literally grounds you in the present moment. It's very, very not useful. I mean, I'm struggling with my words. It's because it's tired. I'm tired and it's late. um, it's very helpful. That's not the word that I want to use, but you get what I'm saying, right? um, okay, so we talked about making a deal with yourself, setting a time to check in every day. We talked about grounding. One that you can kind of couple with grounding is something called diaphragmatic breathing. That's something that I recommend to pretty much all of my clients. And honestly, you can get on YouTube, or if you're on YouTube right now, you can look up diaphragmatic breathing, and it will get you a bunch of how tos. But essentially, it's where you're breathing into your stomach rather than just into your chest. And what that does is, again, it helps calm the nervous system down. Hi, Britt. Love you too, boo. But that one, like we used to do that one a lot. If you've ever been in theater or like vocal coaches or anything like that, they actually teach you how to do diaphragmatic breathing, but it actually helps calm down your nervous system too. So that's a great one for emotional management, and you can combine that with any other strategy that I'm talking about. So like when you're checking in with yourself, do your diaphragmatic breathing with that. When you are doing the grounding techniques, do diaphragmatic breathing with it. You can use that you can do that anywhere. That's what's great about that strategy. You can do it in the car, you can do it at work, you can do it at home, literally anywhere. So again, just YouTube that. Just YouTube diaphragmatic breathing. It's also been very well researched in calming the nervous system down too. But one of the one that was probably the most helpful for me was journaling. And I know some people are like hit or miss when it comes to journaling, whether they like it or not. Don't make journaling a big deal. Like it's just for me, I would just sit down and I would just write how I felt. So sometimes it was 5 sentences, sometimes it was 5 pages. I didn't use a prompted journal. I think if you've never journaled before, you can. I think that's a great place to start because maybe you just are staring at a blank page and you have no idea where to start. That's okay too. Um, but I would just journal like literally every single day. I would leave it on my nightstand so that way when I was going to bed, I would see it. That was kind of like my check-in time was right before I went to bed because I didn't want to, especially if I had a rough day, I didn't want to carry anything over into the next day. And I would just write how I felt, but I always ended it in what I was looking forward to, whether it was the next day or the end of the week or next week, whatever it was. I just always ended something with it being something kind of future thinking and forward thinking. Um, and that was, and journaling something I still do today. I don't do it every single day like I did back then, but I did it every single day for 6 weeks, sometimes multiple times a day. And it's interesting. I also like journaling because I like being able to go back and kind of rereading it and just kind of seeing where I was back then. Because it's very, I think, and this is true for everybody, no matter what the situation is. I think it's very easy for us to look at the mountain that we have in front of us and forget that the mountains behind us were just as hard to climb. And so that's part of why I like to journal, is because I can look back and see the mountains that I've climbed and be like, you know what, I got this. I can do this because look at everything else I've already done. So that's another reason why I like it too, is kind of the reflection part of it as well. It helps. And that's a great point. Thank you for saying that. They said it helps so much with the cognitive dissonance. It really does. As I think if you can write some of your experiences down, and the writing the experiences down isn't there to re-traumatize or to relive, it's to remind. And that's a very distinct difference. There's a difference between like doing something that's going to re-traumatize you and doing something that's going to remind you. So I wrote a list of like everything that I can think about that my ex did. And the reason I did that is because I was still questioning whether or not I was questioning my reality. Like, okay, was it really that bad? Well, there's a good person deep down there. Maybe I was the problem. Like I would have these moments, but then I would read this list of things that they did. And I'm like, yeah, someone that's good deep down didn't do this kind of crap to people, and even if I wasn't perfect, I still didn't deserve all this shit, so I would read it for that reason. And it would just kind of help remind me of my own situation. And that is super, super important to be able to identify like your reality and to be okay with your reality and to accept it as it's part of your story. If you can't do that, then healing from this is going to be very, very difficult. um, they said to reflect back so you don't feel crazy. Pretty much. You still might feel a little crazy, and that's okay. It's part of the process, but it does help with it. Okay, so I just went like on a very long-winded tangent on emotional management strategies. So does anybody have any questions on anything like that, or just random questions as well? And guys, if you like kind of like what we're talking about today, this is the kind of stuff that we're going to be doing on the coaching community. So in Trey's tribe, like this is the kind of stuff we're going to talk about. We'll have exclusive lives on that, where I'll do like questions in a jar on that. And I've also one of the things that we're going to do every month is something called speed coaching. I'm super excited about it. It's like where we go like almost kind of like a Zoom call, but you can kind of like hop in like every for 5 minutes with me and just get like a little quick speed coaching session with me, and then you hop off and then someone else hops on, but everybody can listen. So I'm excited about that. That's one of the things we're going to be doing once a month. Like I said, questions in a jar, which is like the event that I did a couple weeks ago. So if you like this kind of stuff, this is exactly what we'll be doing in the coaching community, but it's going to be strictly in there, not necessarily live in public like this. So if you're interested in that, founding members, today's the last day for that offer. It's only $25 a month. Just send me a DM. If you have any questions, I will answer them for you. If I don't know the answer yet, I will tell you that. And I'm excited about it. So, but does anybody have any questions on any of that? And also, I think, I know for you can also go to the link in my bio too, and it's either going to take you straight to it or it'll take you to like my website, and it's the first thing on there, and you can get some information that way too. If you're nervous about sending me a DM, which don't be, I'm chill, I'm nice, I promise. Okay, so what questions do you guys have? Because I still have about like 20 more minutes before I need to hop up. Oh, thanks. My eyes are one of my favorite features, if I'm totally honest with you. Oh, I love this. Okay, so if you're on TikTok, you can't see this, but so someone wrote on Facebook, I wrote the abusive things down and I would read them when I was missing the narc. And I like how you put that in quotes, by the way. And I recently just burned those pages. So I love that, first of all, because you used it when you needed it, but then you kind of had this like ceremonial release to that. And I just think that's great. Another tip that I'll give you guys, and this is just for free, um, I want you guys to like either put me or like a thumbs up or something, whatever you can do. Um, if you are struggling with the fact that that you won't be able to get closure from them. So like put a thumbs up or a hand emoji, or just say like me if you feel like if that's one of the things that you struggle with letting go of, is that I'm never going to get closure from this person. Because I want to see how many people would benefit from this idea that I will share. And I'll give it a second because I know there's a delay. Okay, so quite a few of y'all. Okay, good. So not good that you're struggling with that. Good that this will be people will benefit from this. Sorry, I wasn't thinking about my words there for a second. So if you're struggling with that, here's a suggestion that I am going to make. Sorry, I'm going to turn my fan on. I'm getting toasty. I love this sweater, but it's warm, and I forgot that it's getting warmer. By the way, if y'all like this sweater, this is one of the sweaters that are on my merch site. It says, "This is my coffee and self-care sweatshirt." It's actually super comfortable. I wear it all the time. But anyways, so if you're struggling with the fact that you're not going to get closure from this person, One of the best strategies for this, and they use this in psychology all the time, um, is actually write a letter. Now you're not going to necessarily send this letter. That's not something I recommend, but I write the letter, and this is kind of like the visualization that you have. And I know this may be a weird visualization, but I want you to imagine like you're sitting across from them, and there's like this glass wall in between you, almost like if you're almost like if you're visiting them in prison, and they can't speak to you; they can only listen. Like that's the setting that I want you to kind of imagine yourself in, where you're safe, you're divided, but they have to listen to you. And I want you to say in this letter everything that you need to say to them, what they've done, how they made you feel, all of that. And but do it while you're visualizing it. Because what's also interesting about the brain, and I've gotten this from school, I'm not making this up, is that when you can get really crystal clear with the visualization, the brain will almost essentially interprets it as a memory. So that's why sometimes if you have like these really vivid dreams, you can almost get confused like, okay, did that really happen or was that a dream? Um, so when you can do this kind of exercise where you're very clear in your visualization and you can either write the letter or you can just do this as a visualization exercise where you just say it out loud with your eyes closed as though they're sitting right there. It's actually really going to help give you the closure that you need as though you were having that conversation with him. And then if you do the letter format, you do whatever you want to with the letter. So like, they mentioned earlier, you can burn it if you want to, you can shred it, you can get aggressive and just tear it up. You can do whatever you want to with the letter. Just I wouldn't send it necessarily because it's not going to set you up for success. It's just going to set you up for some drama that you don't need. Um, but that's one of the that like I actually ended up writing two letters to him. I did it one time. Hey there. I did it one time kind of early on, and then once I learned a little bit more about narcissistic people, because at the beginning I didn't know what this was. It just kind of made everything, I don't know, not more real, but it just kind of made things into, or it showed me what my experience was in a different perspective. So I did it again later on down the road. But I've done this letter for several instances in my life. And this is one of those strategies that's used for people. The one I most commonly hear it from is like if someone has passed away that you had things unsettled with. Um, and so essentially that's kind of what this is, it's you're grieving someone that's still around, but you're never going to get that kind of conversation that you deserve. So try that. And you know, it can't hurt. That's kind of that was kind of my philosophy was when I was dealing with all this because I just like I wanted to feel normal so desperately that I was willing to try anything because I was like, well, it's not like it's gonna make me feel worse than I do right now. It sometimes it works, sometimes it didn't, but that one worked really well for me. Any other questions? Oh, sorry, I got a couple. Uh, okay, so this is kind of a situational question, but I'll answer it. It says, how long will it be for them to get over the breakup? Like essentially where they're not re-love bombing and hoovering you because he's truly getting on my nerves with this love bombing. So honestly, there's just no specific time limit to this. But I will tell you is like the thing about narcissistic and toxic people is like when you become hard work for them, they lose interest. So like if they are trying to re-love bomb you and they're trying to hoover you and it's just like not working and they know that it's not working, they're not going to keep doing it because they're going to find somebody to where it's not as difficult for them. And they're gonna choose that path of least resistance. And if you start not giving them the supply that they need, that's why like you just ignore it. Like don't even respond to it. Like don't acknowledge it. Or if it's in person, just gray rock the crap out of them because that's like they're not going to get what they need. So as far as time specific, I can't really answer that for you. I just can tell you that the more difficult that you become in the sense of like the more work you take to get the attention that they're looking for, good or bad responses, they're going to move on to something else. They want the easy fix and the quick fix. They're all about the quick fixes. Okay. scrolling through TikTok too to make sure I'm not missing any questions. I see y'all chatting with each other, and I love that, by the way. Um, oh, this is a good one. I almost missed this one. So, how do you stop hoping that they change? I know he won't, but I can never trust him again. Okay, so here's another thing that happens, and I want y'all to give me like a thumbs up or something if you um, relate to this. For me, what happened was I felt like my brain and my head had all of this knowledge and like understood all of this, but my heart was three steps behind. So give me a thumbs up or something if you relate to that. So you have all this head knowledge and you like know who they are. You know they're not going to change. You can see things very clearly. I can explain it away. Or at the time I could explain it away to everybody, but my heart was like three steps behind. Like I still felt like I had this emotional attachment to them. Anybody else understand what I'm saying? There's a delay, so I'm going to wait for a second. Okay, they're starting to pop in. Yes, perfectly said. See, this is how you know that I have the lived experience, right? Because we all feel the exact same way about this kind of stuff. Okay, so this is where it goes back to like what we kind of talked about, the emotional management side of things. It's okay to have the emotions. Like it's okay with it, my words. It's okay to have those, and in fact, you should have them. Like I would be surprised if you didn't, because again, regardless of how good or bad the situation was, it was still a relationship. It was still a significant relationship in your life. There's going to be natural processes and natural emotions. We forget that sometimes. So the way that I would start to kind of connect my head and my heart, specifically with things of like, well, what if he changes? Or hoping that he'll change. Here's the reality of the situation. Number one, when it comes to change, nobody can completely drastically change who they are overnight. It's the same thing when it comes to like your healing. You're not going to heal from this overnight. So even if they do change, it's going to take a long time. And I'm talking like years of like extensive therapy, getting treatment, putting in the work. It's going to take a very, very long time. So even if that does happen, and look, here's the deal. I believe that anybody can change that wants to change. Like I truly do believe that. But statistically speaking, it's not very likely for this kind of an individual with this kind of traits. Is it impossible? No. Is it likely? Also, no. So the mindset that I had with this was, first of all, even if he did, there's just so much water under the bridge at this point. I don't know how I could ever trust them again. Like, I just don't know how they could. And the second thing that I thought about was, A, it's going to take a long time to do that. So do I really want to like put my life on hold to wait in hopes that this will happen? For it to, statistically speaking, it's likely not going to happen. And then when you kind of flip it, where it's like, instead of waiting and hoping that this is going to happen, because maybe it will, we don't know. We're not God. We're not the universe. We have no idea. I'm just going to focus on me. And at first of all, because I got to heal myself from all of this, regardless of what happens over here. I've got to deal with me. And maybe when I deal with me, I won't even want them. Like, even if they do change, I don't know. So I would stop. And what my point I'm getting to is, don't worry about it, whether they change or not. Because really, at the end of the day, even if they did change, you still have to heal from the experiences that happened to you. And when you get to that place, and as you move through healing, you may not even want this person, even if they do change. So it's that mindset shift of like where we have to, and look, the reason why you're stuck over here and worrying about them and wondering if they're going to change and all of that is because your entire sense of self-concept has been wrapped up in this individual because they forced that. Like they've made that happen on purpose, where they your attention and your energy and your focus is always on them. Well, again, that's another one of those bad habits that was formed in the relationship. So it doesn't just go away because the relationship's ended. You have to physically like sometimes, and mentally force yourself to shift that energy back into you, where it's like, you know what, whether he changes or not, it's no longer my concern. And even if he changed today, I have all this that I have to take care of first, because you can't enter any sort of relationship when you're still deeply wounded, whether it's back with that person or not. But just, I can almost guarantee you when you start focusing on you and the steps to take yourself back, you're going to be less and less worried about that. How long did your anxiety last after you went no contact? After I went no contact, okay, so if y'all haven't heard my no contact story, it's, mm, I'm pretty sure it's posted on my YouTube now. And I know it's posted on my TikTok. It's one of my longer videos on TikTok. I think that's actually a part 1 and 2 video. It's one of my get ready with me videos. So you can just go to that playlist and scroll through it. You'll find it. Um, my no contact, and I'm going to explain this, but my no contact was a journey. I didn't just go no contact one day. I had to build into no contact because I just wasn't ready. And I didn't want to try to go no contact knowing that I would fail. Like I just felt like that would have done worse things for me. So I just kind of progressively went no contact. So by the time I actually went no contact, I was ready. Like I was so done with him. Like I was watching his manipulation and narcissism just play out right in front of my eyes. So I was just done by the time I got there. So after I went no contact, I didn't start having anxiety again until I started to date again. And that was because here's just something to look forward to. There are certain aspects of this that you really can't work through and heal again until you start to date again. And that's just, it is what it is. Because you need those like lived experiences to be able to process and work through. Now, with that said, I didn't have the knowledge and stuff that I have now back then. Like, and one of the things I coach on is how to manage triggers. It would have made a very big difference had I had that coaching before, but I didn't. I just had to work through this stuff through like sheer willpower. Um, but so that's kind of when my anxiety started to come back a little bit. And it's just because I was being vulnerable again. But like I said, you don't have to be, I'm dreading dating again. I completely understand. But that's again why I like to coach on this kind of stuff because you don't have to walk into it without strategies. I did because this wasn't around for me, so that again, that's why I love doing what I do. And that's also why I started this whole coaching community because that's gonna be one of the things that we talk about quite a bit in the community is managing triggers. Because that's something that I've been coaching people for almost 2 years at this point. I've never met a client that has not dealt with triggers in some way, form, or fashion. So that's one of those things like we're 100% talking about that. If you're interested in the coaching community, if you want that information, send me a DM, or you can also go to the link in my bio. But if you have questions about it, just send me a DM and I can get you the info on there. Right now is the last day for the founding member rate. So it's only $25 a month. And you get the exclusive access to like everything that we do in there. But what was I talking about again? Oh, the anxiety. Sorry, y'all. I have like squirrel and ADD brain. But I dealt with my anxiety was like crippling when I was still in contact with him. Like, and this is why I know I was still trauma bonded at the time because I didn't want to be in contact with him, but I also couldn't imagine not being in contact with him. And every time that I had a conversation with him, whether it was good or bad, I had an anxiety attack. Like my chest would get tight, my face would go flush, my heart rate would go up. Like I literally had a physical response in my body every time I talked to him. It was awful. But I was still just so trauma bonded that I didn't want to, and I hated that I couldn't, but I just knew I couldn't. And honestly, this is why I don't like necessarily saying timelines, but that lasted about 5 months for me until I finally went no contact. But what stopped it was when I started to really see him for who he was. And I'm just going to say it. And he just became so pathetic in my eyes. Like it was pitiful, like how he lived his life and how he treated other people. Like it was pathetic to me. And it made me realize like he is not nearly as strong as I give him credit for. Like he wants me to feel less than. He wants me to feel weak. He wants me to feel this way because he's not. Like he wants me to think that he has the power because he knows that he doesn't. And it's just when I finally started to break that dissonance, really. And I don't even know if it was the dissonance. It might have been, but I think it was more acceptance than anything. But I just knew he couldn't. He had no power, and the only power that he had was the power that I was giving him. And that was when I started to have that shift where it was like, you know, he just seemed, it was just pathetic. Like that's the only word that I have for it. And it, but pathetic in a way that it was, I like pitied him because I knew that, and I still know to this day, that he's never going to have the kind of life that I'm building for myself. Like he's never going to have quality relationships. He's going to be one of these people that just comes in and out of the world, and that's it. Like there's no legacy that's going to be left. There's no meaning that's going to be left after he's gone because of how he treats people. And that's sad to me. Like I that's sad. Like I pitied it. I pitied his life almost. Um, so that's, but what led up to that was my 6 weeks of work. I mean, I was diligently working on myself for 6 weeks every day. I was going to therapy every week. I was journaling. I was trying to figure out how to manage my emotions. I wrote things like the letter. I was reincorporating meaningful activities back into my life. That was a big one, like just creating new habits and routines. I want to hit on that for a second. And if y'all been on any of my lives before, you know I talk about this incessantly, and there's a reason. So it is so crucial to start reestablishing healthy habits and routines. And the reason why, if you've been on here for a little bit, um, earlier I was talking about like the emotional brain versus the learning brain. Well, the emotional brain, that's the one that keeps you dysregulated because it's constantly activating your fight or flight. Habits and routines are going to give yourself the consistency that your brain has been craving this entire time that you were in this relationship. Because part of the reason that you were in the emotional brain was the inconsistency of it. We all know that when it comes to like kids and child development and for children to feel safe, they need that structure and they need consistency. Well, that doesn't go away just because we're adults. Like that it's just we're now in charge of our own structure and consistency. Well, we've not been given the opportunity to do that. So reestablishing things that you enjoy, that bring you joy, that fill your cup up, that maybe things that you've just not been allowed to do, or maybe you've just not had the emotional energy to do, reincorporate those back into your life and just start making new memories. That's going to do a lot more for you than you think. And that's why I talk about it all the time, because of that. Um, I started doing things like just spending quality time with my family again, quality time with my friends, having intentional time with my kids. I started working out again. I started to eat healthier. I started to um, just, well, and you have to remember too, when I was going through this, it was in the heart of COVID. So, I mean, it was back during the shutdown. It was May of 2020. So, I mean, I had to get creative with some of this stuff. Like I was working out at home, not at the gym. My quality time with friends was FaceTiming. So I mean, I had to get creative, but I was just doing things that just brought me joy, and I cannot reiterate enough how important that is. But I was doing that in my 6 weeks, and it really was, y'all. And I know this sounds like very cliche-ish or almost unbelievable, and I know because I've been where you're sitting right now. I just genuinely woke up one day and I was just like, I'm done. I'm just done. And that doesn't mean that I was completely healed. Figured that out when I started dating again. But I was not bonded to him anymore. You know, I still had to work on things like my self worth and not internalizing his actions, meaning like, okay, like the cheating thing, that felt very personal. Like I wasn't enough or I wasn't masculine enough or whatever, because he cheated the last 5 months of our relationship. It was things like that that triggered like an old belief system that I've had for a very long time. Those are the things that took a little bit longer. And that wasn't necessarily because of him. Like those weren't belief systems that he instilled. They were belief systems that he reiterated that I've had since I was a kid. Those are what I really had to continue to work on. But as far as my bond to him, that was done after about 6 weeks of just all of that. Sorry, I went on another rant. Y'all know me and my rants when I go on live. Sorry, I'm just going through comments, making sure I didn't miss any other questions. I love how you guys are like encouraging each other and all of that too. Um, I'm glad my rants are helpful because they feel very random. That's the month that happened to you too. Oh, weird. Yeah, May of 2020 is when I kicked him out. The world was still shut down. I had just gone back to work. Um, yeah, that was God. That was a crazy time. I'm seeing all these. I don't know if y'all are seeing this, but at least on my For You page on TikTok, I'm seeing a lot of like March of 2020 videos, like when the world first started to shut down. And I think we got so, well, I say we, I think I got so desensitized to it. I forgot how scary that was back then. So it's just a very scary time in my life. Um, so, um, eek, he's live. I am live. It was very isolating. I mean, first of all, you're just isolated from the world. And then, you know, you have all this crap going on. And here's what's weird, y'all. Like, here's what's really freaking weird. This is when I knew something was up because the last 5 months of our relationship was awful. Like, it was very tumultuous, like, to say the least. The best part of our last 5 month streak was there was like a couple of weeks where we were both quarantined from work. And that was the best of that entire 5 months. And it's because he was isolated to home. He was present. He wasn't doing extracurricular activities at work that affected everything. We'll just leave it at that. They were a great couple weeks, like they really were. And as soon as he went back to work, that's when it all started again, but worse. It's very weird, but it was like it made sense to me though. I mean, it got bad. It got so bad so fast when he went back to work. There was something. Oh, this is what I was reading. Okay, so just to give a testament to what I was talking about, when it comes to like meaningful activities, and thank you for sharing the story, by the way. It's on Facebook, so everybody else, I'm going to read it to you. It says, I've seen you on a live stream, and you were talking about doing something you love. We talk about it every live. And I think you suggested cooking. Well, I have started baking again, and my family is going to get chunky. I love that. But these are the kind of things that I talk about, like especially when cooking is one of those things that I get a lot about having a negative connotation to it. Like if you used to love cooking before these relationships, but you're struggling with it now because every time you cooked for them, they either yelled or it wasn't right good enough or it wasn't this. Because when you're cooking food, you're kind of trapped in a way. So like they like to pick fights in those moments that when you're cooking and when you're in the car, because you kind of don't have anywhere to go. If you have activities like that that have those negative connotations, those are the ones that are really the most important for you to reclaim. And the reason why is because it's essentially like they stole those from you. And I don't know about you, but my petty Betty ass wasn't going to let him have power over things that used to be meaningful to me. And you may just have to get creative with it. So you may like with cooking, one of the ones that I always coach people on is like, get on Pinterest and find a recipe that you've never cooked before and just do it for you and just do it for your kids. You know, something like that where you just do it, but it's different than how you've done it in the past. So it's not as triggering. And you may not be ready for that yet, and that's okay. Meet yourself where you're at. So don't like make this huge goal of like, oh, I'm going to cook a new meal like all 7 days of the week. Like maybe you're not there yet. Like maybe you just set a goal for I'm going to do one this week and just meet yourself where you're at. I started singing again and he hates it. Ew, that's rude. Y'all probably don't know this, but I actually grew up singing and playing piano and all that. That's a random fun fact about me. Okay, so again, I know I'm talking about a lot, but since the last day, I just want to make sure I'm saying it in case y'all hopped in late. So today's the last day for what's called my founding member offer for Trey's Tribe, which is an online coaching community. I started a coaching community outside of social media where we can connect. Sorry if you hear my dog in the background, she's wild. But everything that we do in that community is strictly focused on what we're talking about right now, like managing triggers. How do I get past this? How do I deal with this? It's all implementation stuff because I feel like that's what we need more than anything. And I wanted to do it off of social media so that way we didn't have to worry about an algorithm and all that kind of stuff. Like you can go on there, you can get your weekly content. There's going to be events that we do. So, anyways, I'm still building it as we are moving forward, which is why I'm doing what's called a founding member rate. It's only $25 a month, and you get to work with me to like build this with me. So you're kind of helping build the structure, give me direct feedback on what you'd like to see and what's working and what's not working and other ideas and just all of that. So if you're interested in that or have any questions, please send me a direct message. Or you can also go to the link in my bio. There's information in there too. If you click on the link, it's the first thing that pops up when you scroll through. But today's the last day for that offer. It will never be this low or cheap again because it's just right now for the beginning. So again, it's $25 a month. We'll work together for like 2 or 3 months, rebuild it, and then I'll relaunch it. It'll just be a higher price at that point, but you're locked in as long as you're part of the community. So just want to make sure everybody knows today's the last day for it. So sorry if you've been here since the beginning. You've heard me say it like 3 times. I just want to make sure I catch people as they hop in and out. Okay. All right, guys, so I have probably like 10 to 15 minutes left. So does anybody have any other questions for me? Oh, did your ex ever pull over and tell you to walk home or also sped up when they were angry? So he was never stupid enough to pull over and tell me to walk home. Because, okay, look, like, yes, I was the person that was like being abused, but he also knew that that I could stand up for myself in certain situations, and that would have been one of them. He was smart on his tactics. I will give him that. But what he did do instead was he had really, really terrible road rage. Like to the point where I like feared for my life a couple times. I remember there was this one time specifically. So I live in like the Metroplex area in Texas, like the DFW Metroplex, and my family has land out in the country. And there was we were driving there, and it was in the middle of the night. And we live in the Metroplex. Like people are assholes on the road. Like it's just kind of what it is. And somebody was tailgating us, and sorry, I haven't thought about this in a while. Like I forgot how scary this was. And like we were driving through Dallas, and like, look, if you get into road rage with Dallas, like you genuinely like could get unalived. Like that's so I just, if someone's acting a fool, like I just let them act a fool, let them go around me. I got kids to go home to. Like it's not that deep for me. Like, but he did not, and so he decided to chase this person and like gunned it to the point where he was going 125 miles an hour on the highway. And it was one of the most terrifying experiences of my life. And that did not happen just once. That actually happened a couple times. And I don't even know how to explain the fear that I had, because it was like I was so out of control of the situation. Like there was nothing I could do. Like, I mean, there was literally nothing that I could do. And all I just was thinking was like, oh my gosh, I may never see my kids again. Like that's how scary this whole experience was. So no, he never kicked me out. Although I did hear about that through other clients and stuff, like where they've done something like that, where they just kicked them out on the side of the road somewhere. He never did that, but he did do the road rage thing. And like that had such a serious impact on me. I still to this day really struggle when my fiance drives. And it's nothing to do with him. It's just, I'm not as bad if we're in his car, but when he's driving my car, I still to this day don't like it. Like I'm better than I used to be, but it's, I don't like it very well. Someone said, as questions not important, but how did you get your teeth so white? I've not done anything other than use Crest Total Whitening toothpaste. That's literally all I do. But thank you. That's really sweet. So yeah, I have not gotten them treated or anything like that. Okay, so we talked about this earlier, but I'm glad you asked again because I think there's some new faces in here, so we can talk about it again. Um, which is how do you break that last thread of hope that it will change? If you're still in the relationship, if they've not changed by now, I can guarantee that you've given them plenty of opportunities to change. And if they haven't, they're not going to at this point. The best hope of change that you honestly have if you're still in the relationship is to leave. That that's going to be the biggest motivating factor for them to change. Because look, here's my opinion. I still believe in humanity despite everything going on in this world. I don't know why that made me emotional, but despite everything going on in this world, I still believe in humanity, and I do believe that people can change. Like I do, but I also am a realist as well, and know that it very unlikely for these people to change. Is it impossible? No. Is it likely? Also no. Um, so you leaving is the biggest motivational factor that it could be for them to change. But here's the other thing too, and I want y'all to really understand this because this is about just people in general. The only person's mental health that you are responsible for is your own. So you cannot be like in the relationship. My ex used to always say to me, and I used to think it was sweet. That's how twisted this was. He used to say things to me like, yeah, if you ever left me, like I wouldn't take care of myself anymore. Because, and I don't really talk about which one it was. It wasn't NPD, but he was diagnosed with a mental health disorder and he was taking medication for it. He refused to go to therapy, but he did at least take medication. And he used to tell me all the time, like, yeah, if you ever left, I wouldn't take care of myself. And I used to be like, oh, and now I'm looking back, I'm like, ew, because like that puts so much burden onto me that and it did like I mean where I already felt guilty about even thinking about leaving him because if I left him he would go back to um his shitty life before me. That would have happened either way. But the reality is like you can't be someone's like foundation to their own change. And what I mean by that is people need to want to get better because they want to get better, because they want to have a better life for themselves, because they want to stop bleeding on everybody around them that didn't cut them, because they don't want to live in the same cycle. And it's the same thing for you. Like your healing journey needs to be because you want to be better, because you don't want to go through this again. Like, yes, my kids were a motivational factor for me, but like I did it for me. And it's the same thing with my weight loss journey. 5 years ago, I weighed almost 300 pounds. Like my playing with my kids was a motivational factor. I wanted to be able to play with them without being so winded so fast. But I stay on that course because it makes me feel better and because I can enjoy my life better when, and not that I'm a gym rat and have a six pack or anything like that, but just the fact that I'm so much healthier than I was even just 5 years ago. I do that for me. Like, yes, my kids are a motivational factor, but I do it for me because of the life that it gives me. So even though like you leaving might be the best motivational factor for it, they need to want to change because they want to be better. Like ultimately at the end of the day. And it's just plain and simple as that. And if you've given them plenty of chances and you showed them grace and you showed them forgiveness and they're just still not changing, and this is a pattern of behavior now. They're not going to change. So and I know that's not all sunshine and roses like you may want to hear, but it's the truth. And unfortunately, that's kind of my job as a coach, is to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. I'm sorry. But if you're out of the relationship, we kind of talked about that earlier too. If you can focus on you and just focus on your healing, you may stop worrying about if they're going to change or not because you've shifted your focus. Mm. Okay. I'm making sure I just didn't miss any questions. Wait, was that one? Hold on. Nope, I don't think so. Okay. Okay. Okay, so I should probably hop off just because it is getting late. But just in case, I'll say it one more time before I hop off. Um, Today is the last day for the founding member rate for Trey's Tribe, which is the online coaching community Everything is going to be about implementable strategies. We'll have weekly content that's produced, but it'll just be there, and the community won't be listed to the public. You'll get exclusive deals for like even stuff like my merch and my course and my book and like all of that. Like you'll get discounts on all of that. But more importantly, it builds a sense of community where you're working with other survivors towards a common goal. You're also working hand in hand with me, like structuring and seeing what you want to see out of this whole thing. Cause I'll be honest, like it's still a little bit in concept phase. Like I'm kind of figuring some of that out as we go. But that's why I have a form on there. Like when you join, you can fill out this form like, hey, this is what I'd love to see, blah, blah, blah. One of the things that I know I want to do every month is something called speed coaching, which is where it's kind of like a Zoom call vibe. But you hop in like with me and we do like a 5-minute quick coaching session, and then next person comes in, blah, blah, blah. I'm excited about that. Can you tell? I just think that's going to be fun. Other thing I'm thinking about doing is like once a month bringing in another survivor where they just talk about what they did for their healing journey, just stuff like that, but just all about implementation side of things. So it's only $25 a month, and it will never change for founding members no matter what I end up relaunching it at in a couple of months. Like as long as you're part of the community, that's what it stays. And you're going to have like, let's just say like founding members are probably going to have like the most benefit at the cheapest price always. I'm still figuring some things out, but I know that's going to be the case. And I'm still figuring out what those benefits are, but I'm being completely honest. I understand most of them. But so anyways, if you're interested in that, just send me a direct message, or you can also go to the link in my bio and any of my platforms. On YouTube, it's in the About Me section. It says like beacons. It's a beacons link. Just go check that out. It's the first thing that pops up. And like I said, if you have questions, DM me and I will answer them. If you are international, like if you're not from the US, still DM me, but I have to figure out how to set that up for international currencies. There is a way to do it. I just haven't completely figured it out. So as long as you DM me before the end of the night, I will get it figured out. You'll be good. But just I've got like 2 people at least from Canada that are patiently waiting for me to figure it out, but I'm just not tech savvy. So that's a little disclaimer. I can pretty much set it up with any currency. I just haven't figured the how-tos out. Anyways, outside of that, I do need to hop off because I will just stay on here all night if I don't. And if I'm honest, I still haven't eaten dinner and I really need to. So I always eat late. But I just want to tell you guys to say this every time. I just appreciate you guys coming on here and just hanging out with me and asking me questions and just showing support to each other, showing support to me. You always say like the sweetest things about, how I help you and all this, but I don't think you guys realize how much y'all have helped me as well. I not question what I'm doing, but I question if I'm making a difference or a lot. And I go and I just see my comments, and even though I don't have time to respond to them all the time, y'all's comments keep me going. Like they really do. So I just really appreciate everything that you guys say and encourage me, because that is what keeps me going for sure. But outside of that, stay safe, stay strong, be blessed and be balanced. And thank you for allowing me to just be a small part of your healing journey. Message me if you have any questions about Trey's tribe. I'm very excited about it. And I look forward to getting to know you and the tribe more. And y'all are great. Y'all really are. So y'all have a great night. And I will talk to y'all in the next live.